Okay, a few months ago, to the shock of just about everyone, a guy in his 30s came out of seemingly nowhere to win the Democratic primary for the mayoral election in New York City. And, if you believe the internet, topple the whole of establishment politics to the ground. And when this happened, I made a video arguing that on top of his amazing campaign and incredible oration skills, I think a big part of what made this victory possible was the power of graphic design. And on Tuesday, I got to watch, along with seemingly the whole rest of the world, as he secured victory and showed that a well-run, articulate campaign with good graphics is capable of beating a billionaire-backed political machine. However, after a night of just letting that sink in, I started to get a little bit worried that, much like after the success of the Barbie movie, studios walked away with the takeaway that what we really wanted as an audience was more movies about toy franchises, that the great political machine might actually walk away learning the wrong lesson from this big moment. So, I would like to offer an open letter to all politicians and political groups and backers and staffers and media consortiums and aspiring political voices and that 14-year-old kid with the embarrassing dream of wanting to be president someday. To all of you, here are 3 good lessons that we can take from Zohran's campaign and how you can use design to tell your story quickly, motivate a group of people, and really affect real change. Real quick, if we're just meeting, I'm Janelle. I'm a freelance brand designer, and this is my little space to talk about design and freelance life and how to have a creative career without losing your soul. And sometimes I just love to gush about design that I love. So if that sounds like your bag, hit subscribe because I'd love to hang out again. All right, on to the list. Number 1, specific equals compelling. Somewhere along the line, advice seemed to materialize that in order to be effective, you needed to be as broad as possible. You need to focus on not alienating anyone, aim for mass appeal, and being as broadly understood as possible, right? A lot of businesses have absorbed this advice too, and it's led to a lot of generic brands that all kind of blend together. And in the political spectrum, it's meant that there's a lot of candidates that you can't really tell one from another, at least from a design perspective. What Zohran did that was so astounding was run a campaign that was for the place that he was running it. I go into way more detail in my first video, but what's so amazing about these graphics is that they can't be for the mayoral race of Atlanta, Georgia, or Dayton, Ohio, or Waukesha, Wisconsin. They could only be for New York because he's speaking directly to New Yorkers. And that's compelling. I didn't go a step farther to say he wasn't even trying to talk to every person who lives in New York City. He was talking to working class New Yorkers who feel like their city is too expensive to live in. That's it. That's the brief. That's who he wanted to talk to. And every visual decision was directed to those specific people. And when you have a brief that clear, you can make really specific, really interesting decisions. His kooky mustard and cobalt color palette wasn't just eye-catching and weird. It directly referenced New York City Transit and the hand-painted signage on bodegas that are around every corner of New York City boroughs. These are things that working-class New Yorkers who think their city is too expensive are interacting with on a daily basis. Definitely not trying to say that good branding can take the place of good ideas or a strong and ethical candidate. But when you're kind of coming out of seemingly nowhere and people don't know who you are or what you stand for or even how to pronounce your name, by using bold graphics to talk about real things that people actually care about, they're going to start to connect with you even if they don't realize it. And that's the power of really specific design. It takes a lot of guts to say, I'm not actually for everyone. I'm for these specific things and I want to talk to these specific people. And then every design decision you make is about that thing. That's true whether you're a political campaign or a nonprofit or a small business or a giant corporation. But in this case, when you're selling an idea, the more specific you can be with your visuals, the faster you're going to connect with people who care about the same things that you do. Number 2, good design makes abstract things tangible. The goal of all good design is to take vague, abstract things like values and dreams and goals of a person or a company or a movement and communicate them quickly. This is quite literally the picture tells 1,000 words thing. I could spend 15 minutes explaining the main points of Zohran's campaign platform, or I could show you these 3 graphics. The reason this brand was so compelling was that it wasn't just, vote for Zohran, he's such a cool guy and he'll be a great leader. It was, my name is Zohran, I'm running for mayor to make the city more affordable, and here are the 3 things I'm going to do. And he could have left it there and made some really good speeches, but by making the main points of his platform into graphics and then plastering them everywhere, now they become characters in the story, We're all about this campaign because we're about these things, and I can see them with my eyeballs. You might not agree with his politics, but if you walked around New York for a few weeks, you would know exactly where he stands without ever hearing him speak. And that's kind of amazing. In a political campaign, when you're literally selling ideas and your dreams for the future, putting those things into graphical form is the difference between someone seeing your face on a bus stop and thinking, oh yeah, I recognize that guy, or seeing your name and connecting it to the things that you believe in, and hopefully the things that they believe in too. And all of that is done before you send out a leaflet or a negative attack ad. You can't buy that. Number 3, good graphic systems inspire collaboration. What I love about this whole brand is that he didn't really need to do any of it. It's kind of extra. His team clearly put in way more time and energy and resources than was strictly needed to just make some posters and a campaign t-shirt. He worked with a creative agency called Forge, and they created an entire brand system with established color palettes and type and graphic rules and probably a brand standards guideline. It's the kind of thing you would do for a company, but it might seem a little over the top for something as amorphous as a political campaign. But the magic that happens when you create a whole visual world to play in is that people get inspired by it. As people hear about your message and want to join your cause, you're giving them the building blocks to become part of the story. You're not just setting internal rules for your own team. You're authorizing people who want to become part of the tribe to own the brand too. And that's when things get wild. You get viral TikToks and free guerrilla marketing campaigns and unsolicited articles written about you because people get excited about this thing and they want to play within it. And that's awesome. Design systems allow people to pick them up and play around and make something of their own. In this case, what you got was a whole gaggle of independent people making crazy TikToks and printing hot girls for Zohran t-shirts. I don't think the campaign itself actually made those things. But by creating a system to exist in, it invited people who wanted to get on board to jump in and play around and see what they could come up with. When you have a flexible system with a few clear rules, and then you offer that up to your fan base, you're opening up the floodgates for some really unexpected and interesting things to happen. And Zohran's brand extended well past what I'm guessing they originally had in mind for it. And that's the power of a good graphic system. It offers an engagement point for fans to become ambassadors and join your tribe and celebrate the thing that they now care about. And it can kind of take on a life of its own. It must have been compelling because by the end, even his opponent's fans were just downright stealing graphics and using them to promote the other side, not even attempting to change them. I have never seen anything like it. And if that's not good graphic design, I don't know what is. Bottom line, good design requires a bit of bravery. You can't make something that's going to appeal to everyone and everything. People can feel authenticity, and they can sense it just as quickly with graphics as they can with words. Yeah, it takes a little bit more thought and effort than is strictly necessary. But if you put in a little bit of extra work, you can make something that's memorable and inspiring. I really do believe that visual design is one of the fastest ways to affect people and inspire change. I hope this gives you at least a little bit of hope for what a more beautiful, or at least aesthetic, future could look like. And hey, if you are a politician wanting to put some of these things into practice, give me a call. If you want to see a way more detailed breakdown of this, click here. And if you want to see how I use these principles in my own work, I'll leave my Design With Me playlist here. I'll see you there.